Okay, so let's continue that conversation in the manner of speaking, but we'll head to Abuja for that. Okay.
Oh, yes, indeed, Chamberlain. As Nigerians in diaspora are concerned, that's how concerned Nigerians at home are also feeling the concern, because they are also right close to the fire. We're talking about security this morning, especially in light of some of the president's recent statements that banditry will come to an end. Are we seeing things on track to, bring that to the fore? I have with me in the studio two gentlemen. Honorable Abdullahi Abdul Qadir is a member of the All Progressives Congress. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Thank you.
And we also have with us Honorable Umar Yakubu Barde, who is a former minority whip and a member of the People's Democratic Party. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily as well.
Thank you very much. Always my pleasure.
Well, you have been listening to the conversation in recent times. Just this morning, we had a conversation around ending the Almajiri system, which is something that the government is looking at. They are saying ultimately, and that's from the NSA, ultimately they think that this is going to be prescribed. First and foremost, how are you taking that particular announcement from the federal government?
Yes, thank you. I always think the federal government should not be concerned about primary education. This is my take. So when you see that the federal government is going low to primary education, it means that something is really wrong. Because states are supposed to be concerned about primary education. So in the first place, the system is not right. And for federal government to say they want to go down and sponsor primary education, you agree with me?
They didn't do that.
Yeah, but if you say you are going to, when government injected money into Almajiri schools, is it not sponsoring?
They haven't said they're going to do that. They have said that they're asking states to engage local governments even more, so that something can be done about the education of Almajiris.
That's what I'm saying. That is a very welcome idea, because in the first place, I think the federal government should not have anything to do with the sponsoring of Almajiri schools. That should be taken over by the state government and the local government. It's just simple, because just like we talk of devolution of powers, I'm of the opinion that things to do with primary health, primary education, how to take care of the things that are very, very unique to people, like Almajiri issue. These are things that are unique to the northern states, and the states should be able to take care of such. For me, it's a welcome idea, and I think the federal government is even long overdue. I want to say yes, I agree it was during Jonathan that we had such, but again, how far with the number of years we spend in trying to make sure that the Almajiri comes to school, without the cooperation of the local government and the state government, it will never succeed. So in the first place, you need to have indigenous solutions. And indigenous solution can only come from the local government and from the states.
You think you were getting enough support from the states on what the federal government has said? Honorable.
Pardon?
I said, do you think we're getting enough support from the states for what the federal government has already said it would like to see happen, especially with Almajiri education?
Yes, I would say to a considerable extent, the states are putting in effort to see that the menace of Almajiri is being handled. But you see, this issue of education, particularly the Almajiri and other forms of basic educations, I think that require a lot of resources. And the Almajiri problem has been there for a long period of time, and successive governments have been trying to provide solutions on how this issue will be tackled. And as a result of that, the former administration decided to invest in construction of Almajiri schools across part of the country, just as we had in the past when government invested in nomadic education. So I think these things, little by little, the collaboration of the federal government, the state government, the local government, and other concerned partners is required so that we can overcome this problem of Almajiri in the northern part of the country and indeed in Nigeria.
Do you think that it has anything to do with the security situation which we're currently witnessing in the country, or do you think that that is another that has come up as a result of something else entirely? Looking at the northern parts of the country now, I mean, initially we had Boko Haram, which was the first problem that we had to tackle. I mean, that is before or after all of the pockets of violence here and there, very few. But now you now have a full-blown problem in nature or in the form of a Boko Haram crisis. Then you now have banditry, which has finally reared its ugly head, and kidnapping as well. Is there any link between education and what it is that we're currently going through in the north?
Certainly, in any country where education is not gotten right, we are bound to be faced with a plethora of problems, one of which could be insecurity and general social instability. The more we have educated people, the better for us, not only in stabilizing the security of a country, but also in making progress in the lives of the people. So education is one of the problems. We have to get it right. And we also have to fix the problem of unemployment. And unemployment, providing jobs, is not necessarily for only the educated people. We have to find ways to expand the economy of this country. We have to be very serious about our informal sector, particularly the small and medium enterprises sector, because they will go a long way in absorbing the army of youths we have unemployed. And like the saying goes, an idle man is the devil's workshop. If you have a lot of idle people around the country, then you are definitely sitting on a time bomb, and we need to take care of that.
Honorable, you have been a lawmaker in the House of Representatives for a while now. I mean, for a long time, as a matter of fact. What would you say the role of the National Assembly is in all the pronouncements that government have been making? What has been the effort of National Assemblies in time past, and what more do you think they can be doing now, if they really have been doing something about it, to further, drive what the policies that government is coming up with?
Thank you very much. Like you earlier said, I have been in the National Assembly for quite some time. When the issue of the building of Almajiri School came, of course, the National Assembly was forthcoming in making provision in the budget to make sure that these schools were brought on board. But like I earlier said, we assess what we have done. Mistakes are made, and I think governance is about correcting yourself and taking the right decision as time changes, because society is dynamic. Things changes, and we have to do things in the right way. I always say, if you look at the insecurity, what the National Assembly has been able to do all this while, we've been trying to provide money in defense in terms of budgetary allocation. But with all the quantum of money that is allocated to defense, the question Nigeria should ask, how much is being released to the military? And honestly, I have to express my displeasure, because most of the times when you go to the ministry, they will tell you money has not been released. And look at it, it's provided for in the budget. So you realize that the National Assembly is doing its own role in terms of providing budgetary provision, but when it comes to execution, that's where there's a problem. I have never seen a situation where the National Assembly refused to allocate money for strategic needs of the country. So if we have been doing that, then I think Mr. President, like I always say, he needs to rejig his subordinates, his aides, those that are working with him, because if with the Procurement Act we have, some ministries are not able to access money because somebody is not doing his job, couldn't follow the due process to make sure that monies are released at the right time so that strategic needs will be taken care of. Then you agree with me that, honestly speaking, I think the problem more is on the executive.
But do you think that the problem is just money? Because some people will say, does the National Assembly also question, is there a lot of rigor behind understanding what the issues are, and then ensuring that what is being proffered by the executive is actually the way to go? Does the National Assembly engage very strongly with the executive on some of the problems that face the country in terms of the solutions, rather than just saying, well, they've come up with the solutions, we'll provide the money in the budget?
Now, if
that cannot be the role of the National Assembly.
Yeah, it shouldn't be just about money. We have oversight function. Just in the last assembly, you agree with me, for the first time, there was this sectoral debate where we look at the various sectors of the economy and we engage the executive. And I think it did a lot to put the government on its toes to make sure that policies are driven. You just don't make policy statements, but you have to implement them. Like I heard the Chief of Army Staff says of recent that the morale or the commitment of the Nigerian Army is low. There is no commitment. Now, it's just acceptance of failure on the part of the Chief of Army Staff, because who is supposed to provide the morale? Who is supposed to provide the commitment? So it's not about money, I agree with you entirely. But again, we need patriotism. In a situation where you provide money and there is no commitment in the part of whoever is executing it, you agree with me that nothing will be achieved. So, yes, we provide money, we do oversight function. Last assembly, we engage in what we call the sectoral debate, which was a baby child of former Speaker, Honorable Dogara. And you agree with me, we brought the executive, we discussed, and you agree with me, we were able, because of that, to even reduce the time frame in approving the budget. It wasn't like this before. Sometimes it lingers on for nearly 8 months, 7 months. But because there was this proactive measure in engaging the executive, even before the budget was brought, and this is what I want to see happening again in this very assembly. I think there should be better synergy, so that when budgets are brought to us, we don't take long, we just approve it because we know what is coming. We've engaged them in our committee levels or in our debate levels, and things will be going the way we should.
Honorable Abdul Kadir, only yesterday the central bank lashed out a 5-year plan through which it intends to ensure that, you know, growth moves to double digits and inflation comes down to single digits. The CBN governor was talking about going back to agriculture. So far, so good. Would you say that what you are seeing, or the indications you're seeing on the ground, even from where you come from perhaps, is also showing the drive towards agriculture as a means of earning foreign exchange and also taking people out of poverty?
Well, I will consider it as going back to the basics. Agriculture has been the mainstay of this country's economy prior to the discovery of oil. And when we got oil, we relegated agriculture to the background, which should have not been so, because it will have been a kind of a buffer for the country. But having said that, I think it is not out of place, or it is very welcome. It is a welcome idea that now the government is really considering agriculture as a means of taking this country out of the woods that we have found ourselves in terms of socio-economic problems. Agriculture is a very large sector that can be used actually to not only earn foreign exchange, we can use it to generate employment, we can use it to even use it as a kind of foreign policy instrument when dealing with other countries of the world. So agriculture has a lot of potentials. It is there for us to have. So CBN is really taking the right step in the right direction to look into agriculture, use it as a means of reducing poverty in the country. And from the part of the country I came from, you will see that people now have embraced agriculture, because if you take agriculture and if you use it as it should be, particularly if you bring in scientific methods, believe you me, you are going to get a lot of benefit from agriculture. We have seen a situation where now people who go on pilgrimage are mostly people who are into agriculture. That shows you that there is a lot of good in agriculture. And the better we harness the potential in agriculture, the better for the country.
Well, two things immediately come out. The CBN says they intend to work with fiscal authorities. There's concern that ministers have not been appointed. We hear that the DSS is already screening ministers. We also saw some APC members yesterday protesting, saying that they don't want people who have been in government for 40 years. The president should get people with fresh ideas. Well, we haven't seen a peak if that list is ready. Would you say that the APC government is too slow in terms of with the urgency of things that are at hand? Are they moving too slowly?
Well, for me, I wouldn't consider that as moving slowly, because even if we need to do things, fast-track things, we also need to get them right. There is no point in rushing to do things, and at the end of the day, we'll come and be regretting of our actions. So it's a combination of the two. While we need to move things a little bit faster, we also need to pay attention to details.
Getting what right? The ministerial list?
Yes, the ministerial list, for example, putting policies in place, for example, and what have you. So all these are things that we need to...
Well, people argue that the elections were concluded some months before the president was even inaugurated. If the elections were concluded and he was declared winner, shouldn't we be getting the ministerial list as soon as he comes into
we should, and I
office?
believe any time from now we'll get the ministerial list.
You don't think that it is coming too late? I mean, it is coming late in the day again.
Well, like I said, we need to get things right. There is no point in rushing to do things just because we want to do them for doing sake. We need to do things that will be sure it will be of benefit to this country. It will add value to this country. It will add value to governance. These are the things that we want. And being a bit patient, I think, is not out of hand.
Honorable.
I want to disagree entirely with my colleague here that there is not slow. For me, it is very slow. You see, the unfortunate thing in this country is that politicians deceive the people to a large extent. If, with all due respect to Mr. President, he has contested for the presidency for nearly 3 times, and I think he should have gotten a compendium of what he wants to do for the country. If in the course of being president for 4 years, I think it was a time for him to really assess those who he really wants to work with and to see if he needs to rejig his cabinet. So for me, during the period of that campaign, during that period, he should have been able to pinpoint some people he wants to work with. So immediately he was sworn in. I even expected that on the day of his swearing in, he should have announced the cabinet so that we kickstart and move on. Let's
not forget that the National Assembly wasn't constituted by then.
Yes.
And some people will say perhaps he was waiting for the National Assembly
to be constituted. Okay, yes. Fine. Right. So when it was constituted, we expect the next day the Senate should have the list so that they start screening. That's just it. For me, like I said earlier, we need to be proactive. Mr. President, I know he's passionate about the country, but again, I don't know where the problem lies, but I think we need to do things faster than we are going now. We are not going to do it wrongly, but I think we've been in Nigeria for long enough. For me, if you ask a bill today in the National Assembly, because of the period I've stayed there, I don't think it will take me 3 days. I'll bring out a bill about something you want to be done in this country. Why? Because of experience, because I've known the people. So Mr. President has been long in this country. He was one time a military head of state. Today he has been president for 4 years. So he knows Nigeria. And anybody, and that's why I want to fault Mr. President, he should kick anybody out that is not ready to follow what should help this country. And this lackadaisical attitude of saying, I don't want to kick people out, is not helping the country. It's the masses that are suffering. For example, I keep on saying, what has changed in the military apparatus that we have today in this country? We are confronted with myriad of problems: Boko Haram, armed banditry, herdsmen clashes. Now the question is, what has changed? Have we really improved on the security of Nigerians? Let's be very, very honest. The Nigerians are suffering.
You members of the National Assembly, shouldn't you tell us what has changed? I mean, you agree that you have oversight responsibilities over even the Nigerian military. Shouldn't we be able to say what has changed from what was and what you've noticed?
For me, what has changed is very insignificant because Nigeria is still feeling the impact of insecurity. Today we talk of agriculture. Fine, I agree there's need for the central bank to inject money into the agricultural sector. But let's ask ourselves, in the northern part of Nigeria today, how many people can go to their farms? In my village today, people no longer go to farms because they will be kidnapped. As small as 100,000 is being demanded for ransom. So it is no longer an issue of maybe one rich man. Even the poor farmer, if he goes to his farm, he's kidnapped. So if you don't tackle insecurity, the issue of growing our agriculture will never work. It will never work. Because as I speak to you people in the northern part of Nigeria, let me speak for my constituency. People are afraid to go to the farm.
That's in Kajuru.
In Kajuru and Chipun local government. They cannot go, specifically because even as more as 20,000 is being demanded for ransom. It's no longer about, oh, is the big man there. Even the local farmers are being kidnapped. So for me, like I continue to say, very little has changed. And I don't think that little is good enough. Mr. President should rejig his cabinet. Some people need to go. Like I said, the chief of the service chiefs, they've been there for long. And I keep on asking. For me, as far as I'm concerned, I have not seen any new innovation they've brought in terms of safeguarding the lives of people in this country. Today, all the forests around Kajuru area, can they be combed by drones? Can't we have... I went to represent Mr. Speaker when the Chief of Air Staff launched what we call the unmanned vehicle surveillance drone. They call it Segumi. Before then, Mr. Jonathan, the president then, launched what we call Gulma, which was an area surveillance vehicle that can be used to have a surveillance over our forests. Big farms use them. Why have we not produced them in quantities that will be able to safeguard our forests, to make sure that this armed banditry, this armed bandit, these herdsmen, and so on, this Boko Haram, have no hiding places? Why? Why?
Oh,
so this is the question. Why haven't we produced enough to safeguard these forests?
Well, it's questions like this that we expect that, you know, you be posing to the executive arm of government when they come for budget defense, or even on matters, you know, that can engage them, so to speak. But he's raised the point about, you know, banditry. Some people will say that the plan of agriculture will only work for those who had nothing to do and were thinking of crime. If they find out that there's a productive sector, perhaps they will be gainfully engaged there and not look towards the direction of crime. But for those who are currently making a killing, who have found crime really lucrative, or for those who think that, you know, they can come and attack the country or attack villages, you know, and get away with it, agriculture is definitely not going to be the way. In fact, it's even going to be a problem for those who are currently in the sector, because they are not even able to go to their farms, as he's talked about. How do you see us curbing this particular menace?
Like he said, we really need to improve. The government needs to put in more effort. And not only the government, even all the citizens, we need to put all hands on deck to see that we take this problem of insecurity head on, be it banditry, be it insurgency, and what have you. We really need to be more dynamic. We really need to find new ways of fighting insecurity in Nigeria. It is true, if the security is not guaranteed, the agriculture will not really give the result that is expected. And not only agriculture, all facets of life, because the primary purpose of government is to protect lives and property and maintain law and order in a society. Having said that, but we also have to realize that the problem of insecurity in Nigeria is something that we have to look within the context of regional instability. By this, I mean the collapse of certain countries, like Libya, for example, like the problems in Mali and what have you. They are really increasing the rate of criminality in Nigeria by way of weapons getting into the country and getting into the wrong hands. So we really have security challenges in Nigeria, but we also have to look at it from that context of regional instability. And like he said, we really need to have new ideas, fresh ideas, new thinking as regards to tackling the problem of insecurity in Nigeria. So unless we get that right, the expected result that we are hoping to see in agriculture, we are hoping to see in industry, we are hoping to see in trade, might not be, it might not come as at when due.
Well, some people say this new thinking is not restricted to the executive. It also has to come from the National Assembly members, and I have two of them here in the studio. So we'll be talking about What new thinking should be coming from the National Assembly? In a moment, please stay with us. Honorable Abdullahi Abdul Qadir is a member of the All Progressives Congress and is also a member of the 9th Assembly. And we also have with us in the studio Honorable Umar Yakubu Barde, who is a former minority whip and a member of the People's Democratic Party. Well, gentlemen, just before as we wrap up now, let's look at solutions. As members of the National Assembly, what do you think the National Assembly can do to help ease some of the challenges that we're currently facing? Let me start with you, Honorable Abdul Qadir.
Like you know, the National Assembly is the legislative arm of the government, and it is expected to make laws for the good governance of the country. And through that way, the National Assembly has been making laws for the good governance of this country, and the 9th National Assembly will continue in that direction. Where the issue of oversight, even when the Speaker was inaugurated, he emphasized it that we really need to take the issue of oversight even more seriously, so that we will be able to keep the executive arm of government in check to be doing the things that Nigerians are expected them to do. And,
yeah, but what kind of laws do you think that the National Assembly should be looking to make? If it's a problem of our laws, what more do you think the National Assembly can do, especially in the light of the security challenges that we're facing in terms of laws?
In terms of laws, it's a continual process. We'll continue engaging the security organizations, we'll continue engaging the executive to really assess and gauge their needs, so that we can come into that and make laws that will free them up and allow them and give them the necessary legal backing to do what they are expected to do, so that the country will be safer and better for us. And also this issue of NABRO, during our inauguration, the National Assembly Budget and Research Office, I think it's a very high time that we need to sort this issue out, because if you have that, you are increasing the capacity of the institution of the National Assembly, so that when you have proposals from the executive, your organization will have, you know, almost the same or even better proposal, so that we can marry the two together and then get laws and get proposals and get policies that will be better for this country. So I think that way the National Assembly can really add value to this country in terms of lawmaking, in terms of alternatives, policy alternatives, and what have you.
Well, we're hearing a lot about state policing right now. People believe that the National Assembly certainly has a role in that regard if state policing is to be. Is that one of the areas this 9th Assembly is looking at, Honorable?
Yes, thank you very much. I think I ever mentioned it on the floor of the House, that the time has come for us to really devolve power from the center and give more responsibility to the states and the local government. If you look at the way our constitution is being operated today, you agree with me that it's lopsided in favor of the center. The center is not supposed to go into, I won't call them little things, like when it comes to policing. Why can't we have state police, community police, and make sure that each state has its own commissioner of police that is from the state and of the state, so that he knows the society better than anybody. And this is where I really sympathize with governors. When governors said, oh, we are not chief security officers, we are chief security officers, but we don't have the security under our control. If like my governor, El Rufai now, if he wants army to do something, there is a certain level that he has to contact the president and commander-in-chief. And why should it be like that? It should just be here, him and the CP or commissioner of police from that state or of that locality, then do things differently. This bring into further the constitutional amendment that we are going through, which is one of the cardinal objective of APC, which was like devolution of power, or what do they call it? They call it restructuring. Right. Now, we need to really do the talk, not just talk. We really need restructuring in this country. There is no gainsaying about it. I am of the opposition, but I strongly believe that we need to do restructuring. And part of the issues that we are going to look at will really help in terms of securing lives and properties in this country. If we have community policing who are in where the people are, intelligence gathering will be better, and nipping any problem that is about to come at board will be apt. They'll be able to do it. But if we don't do this restructuring, we're still going to go around a myriad of problems and we'll come back again to where we started from.
So you think that on both sides of the aisle, you will be getting enough support to be able to push this restructuring through, assuming it were to come up in the 9th Assembly?
Absolutely. As far as I'm concerned, restructuring is good and we need to do it. The APC government has my support in that, because I know without restructuring, we will still have these problems of insecurity. People, like I said, if you look at this Boko Haram, herdsmen, banditry, and so on, it has been with us for too long. Now the question you want to ask, is it the failure of intelligence? Now if there's failure of intelligence, why is it so? It's because of the bogus arrangement we have, which we call the Nigerian police. Bogus arrangement because the people are posted to areas they don't even know anything about. And you cannot really solve a problem when you don't really know the area. You need the cooperation of the people. And some police, I give an example. There was a policeman that was posted to my village. He doesn't speak Hausa, he doesn't speak our language, he understands only English. And now, when there's a problem, the people want to report to him. Unfortunately, some of our people cannot even speak English. So how does he interact with the people? How do you get the intelligence and help? And these postings are done regardless of where you come from to anywhere. It is not working. It is not working. That's just the truth. It's not working. And for me, restructuring is very, very important. Like my colleague said, we have oversight in the National Assembly. We do oversight function. And this is where I want to bring in the challenge that Mr. Speaker we have. I want to beg of him, of course, he is a colleague. He has
just quickly, in 30 seconds, beg of him. What are you begging of him?
That he should choose chairmen that are nationalists, members of the National Assembly to chair committees that are national.
Honorable, are you lobbying?
Not just anybody. No, for me, I'm a leader.
I'm just asking.
I'm not lobbying for anything.
Okay.
But I want to help him. Let him choose committee chairmen that are very concerned about the problem of Nigeria, not their pockets.
Well, I'm sure he must have heard you. If he hasn't, maybe his aide have. But we have to thank you both for coming on the Sunrise Daily before I say coming to the National Assembly this morning. Thank you so much for speaking with us this morning. Honorable Abdullahi Abdul Kadir is a member of the APC from Bauchi State and also a member of the 9th Assembly. And we also had with us Honorable Umar Yakubu Barde, who was a former minority whip and a member of the People's Democratic Party. Sunrise Daily continues in a moment. Please stay with us.
Well, yes, indeed, Mark, but we will be turning our attention to the railway system. Let's take a look at this report for a start.